Initially, I was going to read a chapter from my book, Living in the Flow, Demystifying, Manifesting, and Co Creating a Life of Ease. But then I thought, what's the fun in that? You have me here, so I could just tell you the story. And there are other things that I did not add in the book that I could tell you. So let's go ahead. This story is called Ricky Kanagai. It's the very first story in the book. When I was 16, I loved to read. My mother encouraged it by buying us so many different books to read. During the summertime, she went ahead and registered us at I think it was called the British Council in Cameroon. It's like a library. You just go there and pick out any books you want, you take it home, and then you bring it back after a couple of weeks. So that was my favorite thing to do. Sometimes I would just lock myself into the bathroom just because I wanted to be alone. That was my escape. It was a way for me to visit everywhere or all the different countries in the world without leaving my room. And then I got into reading romance and I really enjoyed it. So in my mind, I started imagining or picturing who I was going to marry in the future. I started telling my auntie he's going to be a Ricky kind of guy, he's going to be Italian, and I'm going to get married when I'm 23 and I'm going to have my first child when I'm 24 years old. I think I must have repeated this to her almost every week. I would say the same things over and over. I loved it. It was fun, and I figured, why not? Now remember, I was 16 years old. I had no idea or concept of what people call now manifesting. It is and it was an innate part of me. I just loved imagining worlds. And my mind was so vivid. In my mind, it was so vivid that it felt real. Now, fast forward, I was in the university and I wanted to study abroad. And my mother started looking into ways where I could get to a visa to go abroad to study. And we thought, Germany. So I did take German lessons for about 4 months, I think. I passed the exams, and that was a very good sign because I thought, there's no way I'm passing the exam if I'm not going. This is a sign from the universe, right? Another reason why I knew that it was going to work out was because the person who was helping us in this whole process was a Cameroonian guy who was a professor in Germany. So we were in good hands. Also, we thought. I did not get the visa to go to Germany. So we were back to square one. And I remember my mom telling me, do not unpack your suitcase. We are going to find a way to send you abroad. And I believed her, so I left everything in my suitcase intact. So I applied to a school in America and I got accepted. So I got my visa to go study in Henderson State University in Arkansas. And I got to America, and that's where everything started to snowball. Life in a new country was different. It was more about surviving than imagining. So you had to figure out how you're going to live the next day, how you're going to eat the next day. So it was a new environment for me. But anyway, let's fast forward a little bit. I started working at this telemarketing company while roommating with about two different Cameroonian girls. And it was really a good experience for me too because I overcame a little bit of my fear of talking to people. You had to get on the phone, figure out how to have them buy a magazine. I became the top selling, telemarketer in the firm and made quite a good amount of money. It was at this firm or company that I met this young, dashing guy. The first day he came to work, he sat right next to me and we just said hi to each other. The one thing that stood out was his voice. He had a really deep, deep voice. So it was very hard for me to stay focused. But he was also very kind to me. He would come to work and he would bring me a sandwich. And at first I was kind of hesitant to take it, but eventually we talked a little bit more and I got to know him a little bit more. So I was able to eat his food, which he is a great cook. He was a great cook. We got married. After about a year, our daughter was born. And I remember she was about 4 months old when I got this call from my auntie. She just was screaming and ranting on the phone. She goes, "Sit down, you need to sit down." And I thought, what's the matter with you? What's going on? Is something wrong with my mom? She said, "No, I want you to sit. Tell me you're sitting because I need to tell you something." And I lied. I said, "Yes, I'm sitting," but I was still standing because I was really tense. And she goes, "Okay, here's what I want to say. When did you get married?" So I said, "Oh, in January," and I gave her the date. She said, "No. How old were you when you got married?" I said, "Oh, yeah, well, I was 23." And she goes, "And you had your daughter when?" And I said, um, "Auntie, you know all of this." And she goes, "Just tell me." I said, 24. And then she goes, "What's your husband's name?" And I said, "Oh, his name is Ricky." And that's when it hit me. And then she finished and she goes, "And isn't he part Italian?" And I thought, oh my God. So we both were screaming at the top of our voice. Everything that I said when I was 16 years old has come to pass. And she said, "Look at you. I remember you sang these things in my ears, and now you're actually living the dream that you dreamed when you were 16 years old." Now, what are the odds that the universe held on to my words so strongly? Because before I had my daughter at 24, I had had two different miscarriages. So somehow the universe held me to that thought that I had. I mean, that's the way I'm going to look at it now in hindsight. But yeah, I did have my daughter when I was 24 years old. If I had my daughter before, then all of this prophecy that I prophesied would not have come to pass or not have taken place the way it did. That's the story about Ricky Kanogai, which is the first story in my book. But this just goes to show us that when you are lighthearted and you just let things be, sometimes they will come to pass just as you have professed. I wasn't obsessive about it throughout the years. I'd totally forgotten about everything that I used to say until my auntie reminded me of them. So yeah, it's amazing. And I tell people about the story and they just go, wow. But that also makes me realize that the power of the tongue, not just imagination, but when you speak things out, it's as if they have a life of their own, you know? And basically, we're taking pictures with our words and we're taking pictures with our imagination. And then the dark room where we're going to develop those pictures is all that time in between. And then, boom, the picture is right in front of your face. I want to thank Lila so much for letting me use her platform to be able to share. So feel free to ask me questions. I believe that we're always learning and unlearning. And there's certain things that you can share with me that might help me to grow as a human being. So my YouTube channel is on now as well. Thank goodness. I have been procrastinating for such a long time, but I hope that I'm able to share stories and share my wisdom with you, and that it resonates and that it helps you in your life in some way. And if it doesn't, maybe somebody else, and you can just share it with the person. I thank you so much for all your kind words, and thank you for your purchase of my book, for your lovely comments. I received them tenderly. Thank you.